Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. That new postal policy about avoiding any employee-originating out-loud reading isn't because such an action is rude. It's so Chancellor Cole doesn't overhear exploitable people stuff that could harm Zelda's beloved subjects. Also, they might not want a prize postcard winner getting swarmed and stuff after everybody else realizes a giant gold chunk is in the vicinity. The guards can't hear Princess Pest Puncher passing by unless she's really close because their uniform standard ear flaps and those relatively close by moving trains work in tandem to render most noises unnoticeable. Zelda knows how to mystical morph ball herself in spirit form because it's just an edited version of royalty passed down teleportation magic she knew beforehand, or something. These safe zones must be for charging up the phantoms whenever they are not possessed by demons. Also, they might help out in concentrating holy energy in a way that makes tears of light form nearby. Perhaps the things are what even normally power these guards, and they're merely being expelled once those incompatible evil spirits get all up in said divine dude's holy business. Skullchulas aren't directly scared by train whistles sound like those boars and whatnot. Rather, it's the accompanying intense vibrations messing with their webbing structural integrity that screws everything up. That jerk-face fourth tree must have developed a habit of lying to people because some kid in ancient times constantly blew the whirlwind towards it. The other train's lack of movement before becoming dastardly demon-drenched is either because Chancellor Cole ordered all transports evacuated prior to summoning his evil buddies, or straight up killed every currently active engineer who wasn't formerly a legendary swordsman. In addition to not having a personal mass transit vehicle readily available for traveling everywhere like Link does, Vigo can't complete his stamp book because the stationary deals themselves are simply so heavy that normal old folks can't lift them. Hence why he never even grabbed the one from Hometown Places. After giving away their magical music, rocket soundstones must go into space where there's no noise, since the spirit flute's tunes can't truly become active when they are sticking around. Perhaps two tones can't utilize the same mystical strength well too often without draining it dry, and this gets done so no heroes wind up powerless as a result of something crazy like pointless tutoring sessions going on forever. The initially sorta weak rail map's power must slightly drain from life force contained within non-Locomo people. Hence why they always let Link reach population centers no matter how little tracks get brought into play. The stamp stations and outdoor areas are located at points with good views. Ones in dungeons are lodged in places somebody must explore most, if not all of, the current structure to find. Both involve making exploration-focused memories in their own special way. Beetle's grand appearance takes so long because he had to convert his train shop into a hot air balloon one after those devilish device deals showed up and made it clear new business tactics are required for ongoing profits in this land. Ocean Realm apparently has the least tracks at first because crazy underwater ones are prioritized almost as much as those population center adjacent deals, since certain kooky spirits don't want that temple falling even further down and whatnot. During less fractured tower having times where typical trail restoration isn't necessary, force gems and energy would typically help strengthen the spirit tracks in ways that make them all durable enough for ever-changing and usually advancing manners modern rail riding rigs. Speaking of that, only the spirit train has access to unlimited cannonballs that later shift into torpedoes because Link's desire for boredom-quelling journey-contained him-controlled explosions generates force energy, which becomes them. Everyone else would need to stockpile ammo and different types of weather-appropriate firepower. Link and Zelda's surprise isn't caused by Anjean having a premonition of this encounter with fear. It's because said she-sage seemingly got up this tower instantaneously while they had to evade ever so many traps and whatnot. Miss Magnificent Mobile Monarch didn't actually do that though. She was merely following very closely behind those two, all stealthily, after the aforementioned future glimpse made her deem such an action necessary. Take 'em all on woman has learned how one can control force energy to make people reenact their harshest battles. She's not open earlier, simply because this Link didn't have enough punch-packing problem parades to construct a sizable violent magical nostalgia whatever at the beginning. This whip race is so out of the way because its only customers before Green Garb Gadget Gatherer were those blue beasts who mostly hang out in that somewhat close underwater temple. Land pirates show up after the ocean realm is mostly taken care of because they want revenge on Link for preventing their carbon kidnapping concerned crimes. Most regal rings are worth much less than what Lineback stated because they are mere replicas of the original piece his grandfather snatched up. The special aura of engineers is one that's mostly built up from a particular energy of somebody who's helped people from everywhere. everywhere. This sanctuary seems primarily designed so only a Goron can regularly get in. The switches that make bridges are for when Ambrose needs escorted out. Anyway, this situation might be a thing because the guy's paranoid and doesn't want to travel, but sees those wacky rock folks as universally nice enough to be eternally trusted as food deliverers. The targets in this Goro range must be made of stone. They get rebuilt by the other unseen employees right after Link passes through a section. Before and after that fixing fun, they must be mining for those prized treasures that get plugged into these chests. Kragma sorta sucks striking small stuff since seeing the ground too well ain't really a thing for him because he needs junk really close to his body lights before anything starts being remotely visible. Plucky Pirate Party Palace place must have been where Tetra & Co. originally stayed until she could figure out that whole establishing a new kingdom deal with prior inhabitants like the Locomo around. Checking up on this place is the real reason Nico wants Link to collect stamps from everywhere. Link whistles instead of calling out Zelda's name because the phantoms can use words but not make such noises. This ain't a place where communication confusion can be risked at all. Bjorn wields his claw like a hook shot. Between this and his ability to adapt in battle and devise new strategies using such tools, it seems like he might be from some sorta spirit reincarnation bloodline type deal. That's the Locomo equivalent of Link's Sacred Hylian one. The rail maps made by Angene's people must have originally arisen from learning how to refine force gems into new, more powerful objects, which let one consciously choose where metal paths wind up. Making the sand tracks must be like that, but on a somewhat smaller scale. It's basically the magical train equivalent of scribbling directions onto a napkin. These ancient turret cannons were probably initially designed to keep Maldus and his demon train away from this temple and its surrounding lands people until the Bow of Light was finished and general sealing him-related business could get taken care of. This stick thing, as Zelda so masterfully puts it, was most likely a simple landscaping tool desert dwellers depended on for day-to-day stuff. It was even expected for every citizen to understand how to wield one from a very young age. Hence the goofy face design that kids would like, and incredible simplicity of the puzzle that pops up right after obtaining it. Link couldn't get his fancy new Locomo sword until Bjorn redeemed himself because all the tribe members must be in a not hate-filled state in order to gather enough force energy for its formation/summoning. The variety and relatively balanced distribution of phantoms in this final section is because Captain Cloakclaw was using them to train himself. A Boda village may have been founded near that potential portal to certain Dark Realm places, just in case a Link incarnation needs to do the job such names typically demand, because all local authorities suck at saving worlds as per usual. The freight car is relatively tiny for its intended use. This must be because those business-savvy Gorons reserve regular-sized ones for themselves so they can maintain an edge in the junk-hauling business. Not that these people wouldn't have one anyway, given that they can still carry literal tons of stuff by hand, a feat other tribes can't even come close to touching, especially when it comes to the mining of super-weighted dark ore hoopla. The sand wand won't work on beach-located, not entirely smooth particle clusters because such stuff's too wet for this thing to recognize its proper magical signature or what have you. This justifiably disgruntled woman changes her mind about husband-originating antics so quickly because she glimpsed the majesty of freely frolicking bunnies on her way to Link's train and now understands everything that crazy hubby loves about those hoppity little things. Also, her force gem doesn't generate tracks near more rapids. It's actually kind of an opposite situation going on, as these things are simply drawn to the potent, furry, loving energy. Sorta similar sounding, there's no evil spirit following Link. This message is actually referring to all the not good vibe energy that's been pursuing Zelda ever since Cole started putting master reviving plans into action. The Inoki General Store is so far away from the village because this shopkeeper knows his people's stingy culture would result in much haggling attempts. That cheapo crap gets countered by making sure customers are all too exhausted from traveling such a long journey to even care about the price of what they need. Misfighting everybody is a good time didn't generate this particular battle. Link himself did by unconsciously forging a force gem based on the idea that no one but himself can beat him. Thoughts which mostly arose while those earlier two difficulties were being tackled. This is also why there are somewhat different rules going on here, what with healing hearts and everything being present. There's probably more than 50 rabbits in this land. It's merely that this dude only managed to tag that many with those bandanas he made out of his other clothes. Anyway, this fellow wants to gather them all up in a refuge because he was originally somebody who hunted them with some sword beam technique he developed, and much regret ensued once children surrounded fluffy charred corpses got glimpsed or something. These tears of light formed from force energy emitted by departed locomos as they ascended to the afterlife, so one last Maldus holding back action could get checked off their bucket lists. Zelda can feel the damage to the spirit train more than Link because she's a said vehicle named inspiration herself. Career choices don't matter for this guy. He'll always have that nifty hero blood and regular regular castle access if royal folks demand help in any capacity during future times. However, if I don't know gets picked, Link takes a vacation for a while and Alfonso temporarily takes on both roles once again. The final song isn't needed at all for demon defeat. Miss Minion Manipulator merely wants to punish Link for taking an absurdly long time with recovering her body. This princess and/or swordsman engineer would both be suitable vessels for Malden because of their Triforce aspect representing status. In other words, a wisdom-savoring soul would develop brains that help magic use of all varieties, and a courage-fueled one that says his will powering up to stay intact no matter what DK-related chaos might ensue. Link doesn't live in the city as part of some famous royal guard bloodline because Tetra wanted him and his new family to stay away from giant main society places so those wacky conditions that brought forth past heroes could keep on being created. It was left up to those piratey folks who eventually bore this particular Alfonso to watch over them so no hidden Ganon-worshipping assassins or whatever would try secret, mostly revenge-motivated killing plots. Most instances of Lost Woods-type areas must be caused by Hyrule's connection to the Sacred Realm experiencing an error. This one is because of basically the same thing, but with a track sealing Malladus. Skyward Sword wouldn't have any directions-draining demi-dimensions because humans hadn't reached that Triforce holding place yet. Only the gods who formed it. It's stated in A Link to the Past and other deals that the usually Golden Land gets shaped based on whoever's heart last touched that aforementioned ultimate power doodad. And all those are all flawed in humans. Even perfectly heroic ones. This new shield kinda looks like a hybrid design between the old Redbird Hylian examples and those Wind Waker wielded ones with crawfish on them. Stories about which legendary hero defended himself with what must have gotten crisscrossed over the centuries. Golden dolphins are Triforce-inspired animals that the Ocean King sent over as sort of a housewarming present for Tetra, Link, and Lineback once they found this new land. Similar to that recently brought up porpoise thing, Phantom Hourglass's main mammal marine monarch may be the one who packages post-victory heart containers up for this Link oh so neatly as a sign of his eternal gratitude. This dove marks a true engineer because the first thing these settlers of New Hyrule did was develop those nifty train-based post offices. It also might have something to do with Errol making those crazy pirate friends realize that bird watching is just really fun. Also, the Rito probably didn't move here because their deity buddy, the Great Valu, didn't want to live right by a giant cold region. These stations were the first areas Wind Waker, Link, and Tetra would have considered for starting up their new society. Once they realized these places lacked vital resources like drinkable water, they were abandoned as real home prospects. They didn't get completely thrown away though, since their unique structures are well suited for hero training ground malarkey. After this was decided, the Lost at Sea one would have been created as a tribute to that beloved Ocean King, who helped new country finding shenanigans really kick into high gear. Nico was gifted the Antiquity Shield after Windy Mr. Hero got his Mirror one. Like-likes don't eat it because it's too old of a material. They are simply not evolved for digesting such ancient metal. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.